"I don't want to earn more money," said nobody ever. Most people do gig work because it's convenient, and you can earn a fair amount of money on your own time. But what if you could earn more? What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy. In this video, we're going to talk about the ins and outs of multi-apping, the risks, the benefits, and who should do it. Really quick, if you happen to be in the Denver area, listen up. There's going to be two events back-to-back. GigCon 2023 is on Friday, August the 4th, and the Para-Rodeo Roundtable event is on Saturday, August the 5th. If you're in the area, check the description. I'd love to meet you. All right. The phrase multi-apping is used interchangeably to mean two different things, and both of them can drastically increase your income. One more so than the other. Meaning number one, to run multiple apps at the same time and accept the best order that comes your way on one app, shut off your other apps, complete that order, and repeat the process. Every driver should be doing this 100% of the time. This does not pose any risk to your accounts. Meaning number two, and the subject of this video, to run multiple apps and accept multiple orders on different apps and do them all at the same time. For example, let's say you accepted a DoorDash order, but then Uber comes through and sends you an offer that you just can't refuse. So you do them both at the same time. This is something that I do on a regular basis and something I'm quite passionate about. But before we go any further, it's disclaimer time. If done wrong, multi-apping can cost you your account. You could potentially get deactivated for doing this. Neither me nor the RideShare Guy take any responsibility for the orders you choose to accept or decline, or what you do with the information presented in this video. Okay, now that that's out of the way, my goal for this video is to teach you the safest form of multi-apping possible, as well as how to analyze an order to see if it would be a good candidate for a multi-app. Before we look at any examples, let's talk about who shouldn't be multi-apping. If you're a new driver or even new to just one app, don't multi-app. You would just be adding a substantial amount of unnecessary risk. I would say that you should give it at least 6 months before multi-apping. Every app has their own unique nuances. For example, on DoorDash, mod pizza in my market is almost never ready. Meanwhile, on Uber Eats, it's almost always ready. These are the sort of things that you need to be aware of before making the leap to multi-apping. You shouldn't multi-app if you don't know your city streets really well. If you can't look at an offer screen and plan the route from the restaurant to your customer's house in your head without the help of a GPS, you're not ready to multi-app. Okay, you know your city, but do you know your restaurant wait times? This is just as important as route planning. Restaurant knowledge takes time. Partially because you need to know what to expect from the employees who are working at that restaurant at that time. I'm not saying you need to know everybody's schedule, but I am saying that you should be able to walk into a restaurant, take a look around at the staff, and know what you should expect. I want to give you an example from my market. There's a guy who manages 3 restaurants here, and when he's not at any of them, things are running smoothly. However, I know if I walk into one of his restaurants and see 8 drivers waiting in the lobby, it's time to unassign the order. I don't even need to go inside. I know who's working. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that multi-apping is truly ever safe, because it really does only take one mistake to get yourself in hot water. But let's look at a few examples of what I would consider to be the safest form of multi-apping. Red Robin is here, and your customer is there. This is the route that would make sense, and the route that the GPS would pick for you. But let's say you were on your way to pick up your Red Robin order, and a different app sent you an order for a Mexican restaurant picking up here. And your second customer lives there. You're going to be taking the same route to both customers, and on top of that, your second pickup is on the way to the first customer. If you know that there's a very high probability of both of those orders being ready, and neither one of those drop-offs are complicated, this is an ideal multi-app. The perfect multi-app is when both of your customers can be watching their phone and assume that you're on the way to them. Okay, that's a pretty cut and dry example of where things lined up perfectly. Let's look at another example where things still line up, but maybe not quite as perfectly. Let's say order 1 is picking up here and your customer lives there. The logical route and the way that the GPS would take you would look like this. But the weekend's coming and you need your beer money, so you decide to add an extra stop. Keep in mind, this is the route that the GPS would suggest. Now, let's say your second order is picking up here and your customer lives there. You can still do this, but instead of taking the suggested route, you could do something like this. With that said, something to be cautious about is the speed limit on the route that you choose to take. If either of your orders are dropping off 4 or 5 miles away and the suggested route has you taking the freeway, but your route is going 35 miles an hour, you run the potential of both of those orders being late. Route planning is something that's market specific, so obviously I can't teach it to you. But hopefully I can get you in the right mindset so you know the questions to ask yourself. You want to be exceedingly careful about anything that could slow you down or stop you. Think construction, school zones, road closures, and railroad crossings. Anything that could slow you down. Let's look at another example. Let's say your first order is being picked up here and your customer lives there. Your second order is picking up here and that customer is there. At first glance, this looks a little more complicated, but it really doesn't have to be. See, here's the thing. We're not bound by the suggested route. It's just that, a suggestion. If you were doing only one order, the logical choice would probably be the freeway, but when you add the second order, it's really no longer the case. Instead, you could do a route like this. This route gets you to both pickups and drop-offs. It may not be the optimum route to either one of your customers, but they both could be watching their phone and just assume you're taking the back way. Look at multi-apping like simple geometry. If your route is going to look like a simple shape, it's probably not going to be a good multi-app. Your route should always look like a line rather than a square or a triangle. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of multi-apps that you should never do. Pickup 1 is here and the customer is there. Pickup number 2 is over there and that customer lives here. At this point, it doesn't matter what route you take because at some point you are going to be backtracking. One of your customers is going to watch you driving away from them. This is a telltale sign that you're multi-apping poorly. And this is also when your risk of deactivation shoots through the roof. I want to stop here for a moment. Mistakes happen. I think at some point or another, we've all accepted an order that we didn't mean to or thought it was delivering in a different part of town. This is why it's imperative to keep your completion rate high. This is your insurance policy. Your get out of jail free card should you make a mistake. If you get to a restaurant and that order isn't ready, unassign it. It's not worth the risk of waiting. Now, let's look at one final example of a bad multi-app. Let's say both of your pickups are here. We're off to a good start, right? However, one customer is here while the other is over there. Once again, there really isn't a way of doing this without having to backtrack. At no point should you ever be moving away from one or both of your customers. Now that we've taken a look at a few orders that are both good and bad multi-apps, let's talk about how to look at the offer screen and analyze an order. Obviously, your first step is to take a look at the restaurant. By now, you should know exactly how long you're going to be waiting at that spot depending on the time of day and day of the week. Next, ask yourself if it's going to take you in the opposite direction of your first customer. If so, don't do it. And finally, can you plan a route in your head from where you are to your second pickup and to both of your customers that look logical to everybody involved? When done correctly, multi-apping can drastically increase your earning potential. If you're ever in doubt, the best policy is just to decline. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. How do you feel about multi-apping? Do you do it or do you avoid it? If you do it, which apps do you multi-app? Don't forget, if you're near Denver, check the description for more information on the events happening in August. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the RideShare Guy. You can catch my videos here every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video where I talk about how low base pay could possibly go. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the RideShare Guy. Take care.